that you have. And you can kind of check those three things in the right setup. The body correctly, the line of the golf, which is going to be two ways to chat. The video doesn't much rate and the start golfing in the correct way, you'll be hitting more fairways. So welcome back to the Forest of Arden. Thank you for joining me, and today we're talking driver and we're talking setup. And we're going to show you the three most common setup faults that I see golfers slipping into when using the driver. So the driver, such an important club for a lot of golfers. The handicap golfers that I generally see, if they can get the ball off the tee a good distance in play, it generally helps them shoot lower scores. So when you coach over a long period of time, as I have done, you tend to see the same things cropping up as common faults, and that's what we're going to address in this video. So the first fault that I would tend to see is, we'll call it body tilts, and so we'd be looking more from this front view, and it's kind of how we tilt the body. Now we can tilt the body this way, or we can have a combination of tilts. Now most people are very aware that when we set up with a driver, we'd like the ball to be more forward in our stance, so much closer to that lead heel. But what that really does, it makes it almost difficult to get the club into the golf ball. What we would tend to see as a general pattern is the lead hip would tend to be, or should be, a little higher, and we should have a little tilt in our upper body, so this angle here tilted away from the target. Then I can place the club in behind the golf ball. So there's a tilt across my shoulders, there's an angle in my upper body, and there's a tilt across my hips, albeit a small amount. Very common would be to see that golfer set up with the ball forward, but their right hand and their right shoulder very much reaches across in this fashion here. And what that movement often does is kind of force the hips almost backwards and the upper body forward. So we actually create a setup which is almost the exact opposite, where the trail hip gets too high, the trail shoulder gets too high, and the upper body actually gets tilted towards the target. So you can see how that setup looks very, very different to this setup. Now, once I create this setup, I can hit the fairway. I'm going to hit drives which go in the fairway, that's not a problem. But I'm probably going to find that I tend to swing left. I often find I'm going to hit down, and so I get left to right shots and I don't achieve the most distance that I could. So, really simple little exercise. Take the golf club, place it straight down your body, set yourself up, and try and create a situation where that grip would point about to where the ball position is relative to your feet. So if that ball is just inside my lead heel, creating a setup where I create that motion there, and you can see that golf club now points more down to where the ball would be. That helps me create those setup tilts. The second problem I see with golfers using the driver when they set up is just alignment. And not necessarily alignment to the target, but actually just alignment through the body and getting that consistent. Very, very common to see a golfer set up where their feet point a little bit to the right, so you can see that there, and their shoulders will actually point a little bit more to the left of the target. So that could kind of references that there. Really common. Very, very uncommon to see the opposite. Very rarely do you see this, but very, very common do we see this. So what this kind of does is, again, it gets the shoulders out of position relative to the feet. This golf club wants to work very much on the outside. So either it's going to work on the outside, or that golfer is more likely to kind of roll the club inside this way to try and create the shape that in their mind they're believing they should swing the golf club on. So shoulders being open relative to the feet is, again, a very, very common problem. It's made more difficult by the fact that the ball is further forward. If you can imagine the ball was outside my trail foot, my shoulders would be more likely to be closed. If the ball was way outside my lead foot, the shoulders tend to be open. So as we push that ball forward in the stance, it tends to encourage the shoulders to be a little bit more open. So it's not uncommon to see that golfer kind of start with the shoulders left. We need to feel that this right shoulder sits more back and down, and that kind of links in nicely to what we said as our first fault, which was the kind of spine angle. Those two are quite closely linked. The final setup fault that I see being really common across golfers is just the alignment of the golf club at setup. And when we're talking alignment of the golf club with the driver, I'm talking about that in two kind of areas. Number one would be just the alignment of the club face. So again, it's really common to see golfers kind of start with the golf club twisted in towards the golf ball. Some golfers will sit the club open, less common, but some golfers will find it really difficult to actually align the golf club correctly to the target. The second alignment would be actually the club shaft itself. So you'll notice from that face on camera that I really want that golf club to be pretty vertical. If I start to have the golf club back a vertical, again, this is quite common, that will change where the golf club points. And you can do this next time you've got the driver. You can just move the handle forward and back, and you'll see the golf club will start to open and close. So if I've got the golf club too much leaning back, the face tends to want to point left. That golf will then often feel like they've got to kind of manipulate the face with their grip, and we just start to get, you know, a lot of inconsistency in that setup. We get a lot of things that we're trying to balance, kind of handle back, you twist the golf club doesn't sit naturally, and we're just starting off with real mismatched positions, if that makes sense. One of the terms that we would use in coaching is first point of breakdown. And what that really means is if you've got a shot which you're struggling with, a pull, a slice, a top, a fat, it's looking at where in the golf swing that first started to go wrong. And it's very, very often with the driver, setup is the root cause of all the problems that you have. So if you can kind of check those three things in your driver setup, get the body tilts correct, get your alignment good, and get the alignment of the golf club, which is, remember, in two ways, it's club face and shaft, we're going to give ourselves a much greater chance of starting the golf swing in the correct way and ultimately hitting more fairways. So let's see if I can practice what I preach and hit this ball onto the green. So good tilts, alignment, and good golf club alignment as well. Oh, not the best swing, a little bit left. That would take a good up and down to get my birdie on this hole. So the setup might have been good, the result wasn't so good, but we'll blame that on the first swing of the day. I'm sure you can all learn.